In a significant policy shift, the U.S. government has instituted a ban on romantic and sexual relationships between American personnel stationed in China and Chinese citizens. This directive, which applies not only to diplomats but also to their family members and contractors with security clearances, was implemented by departing U.S. Ambassador to China Nicholas Burns in January 2025. This move comes amid rising tensions between the United States and China, as well as heightened concerns over espionage and intelligence gathering. The policy is notable for its breadth. It prohibits all romantic engagements with Chinese nationals, a sharp departure from previous regulations that allowed some leeway in personal relationships. Prior to this directive, U.S. personnel were required to report any intimate contact with Chinese citizens. But they were not outright banned from pursuing such relationships. The new rule was reportedly influenced by concerns from Congress about the potential risks associated with these interactions, particularly in light of intelligence reports suggesting that Chinese state security agencies actively use personal relationships as a means of espionage. While some U.S. agencies had already imposed restrictions on relationships with specific personnel such as embassy staff, the introduction of a blanket ban represents a return to Cold War-era practices. In fact, similar restrictions were in place decades ago following incidents where American diplomats were compromised by foreign operatives. This historical context underscores the seriousness with which the U.S. government views the potential vulnerabilities posed by romantic entanglements in a country where surveillance is pervasive and state security agencies are known to leverage personal connections for intelligence purposes. Peter Mattis, a former CIA analyst and president of the Jamestown Foundation, highlighted the aggressive tactics employed by the Ministry of State Security (MSS) in China, stating, "The MSS is willing to leverage any human connection that a target has to collect intelligence." He noted that this policy change reflects the MSS's increased aggressiveness in trying to penetrate U.S. diplomatic operations. The implications of the ban extend beyond personal relationships. They signal a broader tightening of controls on U.S. personnel abroad. The State Department has refrained from commenting publicly on this internal policy, which has been communicated to American personnel in China both verbally and electronically. However, those with pre-existing relationships may apply for exemptions, albeit with the stipulation that they must sever ties if their request is denied. As the geopolitical landscape continues to evolve, this policy is emblematic of the rising tensions between Washington and Beijing, which have been exacerbated by trade disputes, technological rivalries, and national security concerns. While the Chinese government has not publicly commented on the ban, it has similarly tightened its own regulations regarding relationships between Chinese officials and foreign nationals, reflecting a mutual distrust that permeates diplomatic interactions. Looking ahead, the ramifications of this directive will likely resonate throughout U.S.-China relations. As both nations grapple with the complexities of espionage, security, and personal conduct, this policy may serve as a precedent for future diplomatic engagements. The U.S. appears determined to safeguard its personnel against potential compromises while also reinforcing a stance of caution in an increasingly contentious global arena. As tensions simmer, the interplay of personal relationships and national security will remain a critical focus for both governments. As the global economic landscape continues to shift, tensions between the United States and China have escalated dramatically following the recent imposition of tariffs by the Biden administration. These tariffs, seen as more detrimental than those introduced during the first trade war, pose a significant challenge for China's economy. With the potential for retaliatory measures and an evolving geopolitical climate, the implications of these tariffs are profound and far-reaching. In a report by Bloomberg, analysts indicate that the current tariffs imposed by the U.S. are expected to inflict greater economic pain on China than those from the previous trade conflict. The report highlights a range of economic vulnerabilities within China that have been exacerbated by these new tariffs, including a decline in industrial output and consumer confidence. As the Chinese economy grapples with these shocks, the government has been quick to respond, urging the U.S. to lift the tariffs immediately and threatening retaliatory actions if necessary. "We will not sit by idly while our economic interests are threatened," a spokesperson for the Chinese government stated, underscoring their commitment to counter what they perceive as economic bullying. CNN reported on similar sentiments, noting that China views the tariffs as an unfair tactic in the ongoing global trade war, which has already strained relations between the two superpowers. The Chinese government has vowed to implement countermeasures, emphasizing their resolve to protect national interests and economic stability. "These tariffs are not just a trade issue, they are a challenge to our sovereignty and economic independence," remarked a senior Chinese official. The Economist provided further analysis suggesting that the U.S. tariffs could inadvertently strengthen China's resolve to rectify its economic policies, which have faced criticism both domestically and internationally. The article posits that the pressure from the U.S. could serve to galvanize Chinese leadership into making necessary reforms, potentially reshaping the economic landscape in Asia to China's advantage. This perspective illustrates a complex interplay where U.S. actions may not only fail to weaken China but could instead bolster its position. The economic ramifications are already being felt, with trade data indicating a slowdown in China's export growth and increasing uncertainty among businesses operating within its borders. Experts warn that the long-term effects of these tariffs could lead to significant shifts in global supply chains as companies re-evaluate their dependencies on Chinese manufacturing. The potential for a prolonged trade standoff raises concerns about a slowdown in global economic growth as countries attempt to navigate the fallout from these policies. As the situation unfolds, both nations face critical decisions that will shape not only their economic futures but also the broader geopolitical landscape. While the U.S. may perceive its tariffs as a means of asserting economic dominance, they risk driving China to strengthen its alliances and adapt in ways that could ultimately counteract American objectives. In this high-stakes game of economic chess, the outcomes remain uncertain, but the potential for escalation is palpable. Looking ahead, the interactions between the U.S. and China will be closely monitored, with analysts predicting that further developments could lead to either a de-escalation of tensions or a deepening of the trade war. How both nations respond in the coming months will be crucial in determining the trajectory of their economic relations and the stability of the global market. With a delicate balance to maintain, the world watches as these two powers navigate a path fraught with challenges and opportunities. In a dramatic show of military might, China has recently escalated its military exercises around Taiwan, presenting a multifaceted challenge to U.S. influence in the region. These drills, launched under the pretext of safeguarding national sovereignty, appear to be as much about sending a message to the United States as they are about Taiwan. As tensions rise, the implications for U.S. China relations and regional stability are profound. On April 1, 2025, China's People's Liberation Army (PLA) commenced joint exercises that involved its Army, Navy, Air Force, and Rocket Force encircling Taiwan. The PLA's Eastern Theater Command characterized these maneuvers as a stern warning against what it termed Taiwan independence separatist forces. The drills included simulated assaults on maritime and ground targets, alongside blockades in critical sea lanes. "This is a legitimate and necessary action to safeguard China's sovereignty and national unity," stated the PLA in an official statement. This show of force comes in the wake of U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's recent visit to Asia, during which he underscored America's commitment to countering Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific. Hegseth's reassurances to allies like Japan and the Philippines have heightened expectations that the U.S. will increase its military presence in the region. As a result, Taiwan finds itself in a precarious position, situated just 80 miles from China and caught between the competing interests of two global superpowers. Taiwanese officials have condemned the military drills as reckless and irresponsible, reflecting the island's deep-seated fears of becoming a target in a larger geopolitical struggle. Joseph Wu, Secretary General of Taiwan's National Security Council, criticized the drills, asserting they violate international laws and are unacceptable. Meanwhile, Taiwan's defense ministry reported heightened military activity, detecting 71 Chinese military aircraft and 13 naval vessels near its waters, which prompted a corresponding increase in Taiwanese military readiness. The strategic timing of these drills suggests that Beijing is using them to gauge U.S. resolve and response capabilities. Analysts believe that the PLA's actions are a direct response to Hegseth's Asia trip, which was seen as a reaffirmation of U.S. commitment to the region. A senior Taiwanese official noted that the drills serve as a reminder of the shifting security focus of the U.S. towards the Indo-Pacific, putting pressure on China to demonstrate its military capabilities. The PLA has increasingly conducted military exercises around Taiwan as part of a broader strategy to assert its claims over the island, which it considers a breakaway province. This latest series of drills, described by experts as a new normal for the PLA, has become a routine method for China to express its displeasure with Taiwan's leadership and its moves towards independence. Zhang Qi, a professor at the PLA's National Defense University, emphasized that these exercises lack specific codename designations indicating their regularity. Moreover, the situation reflects underlying tensions stemming from Taiwan's increasing assertiveness in its defense posture and its leaders' reluctance to bow to Chinese pressure. Recent incidents, including the detention of a cargo ship crewed by Chinese nationals for allegedly cutting an undersea internet cable, have further inflamed relations. In this context, the PLA's military drills serve not just as a warning to Taiwan but also as a strategic maneuver against the U.S. presence in the region. As the geopolitical landscape continues to evolve, the implications of these military exercises are significant. They not only threaten to destabilize the Taiwan Strait but also challenge the U.S. commitment to its allies in the region. With both nations maneuvering for influence, the coming months will likely see heightened tensions, and the potential for conflict remains an ever-present concern. Observers are left to wonder how the U.S. will respond to this aggressive posturing from China and what it means for the future of Taiwan and stability in the Indo-Pacific.